Look, everybody, I'm really glad that you're here today because today we're talking about how you can identify these giving blind spots that you may have and how you can unlock your gifts and superpowers that maybe you didn't know that you already had. Because are you overlooking your most valuable strengths, resources, things that you have inside of you? Because you may very well be. And so that's why we're diving into this thing that I call your giving blind spots. Now, these are going to be the gifts and strengths that just come so naturally to you that you don't even recognize that they're valuable to others. They're things you do without thinking because they feel like nothing to you, because to someone else, they do feel like everything, and you may not realize that. So let me ask you a couple things just to kind of frame it up for you. Like, have you ever had someone thank you, like genuinely and deeply, for something you said or did, and your first thought was like, wait, what, that? Like, it was no big deal. Or maybe you watch someone struggle with something that just feels like second nature to you, and you thought, like, why is this so hard for them? Like, those moments, they're not random at all. They're signals. They're showing you that you've got these hidden strengths that live inside of you and that they're just in your blind spots. Now, here's what I've learned, not just from my own story, but from walking alongside, thousands of other people, parents, entrepreneurs, employees, anyone who's trying to make an impact, but maybe is feeling overwhelmed and stressed, or maybe even burnt out. Most of us are just sitting on untapped value. Not just because we're not talented, not because we're, being overly humble in any way, but because our best strengths are just so woven into who we are that we stop noticing them. They become just part of our background. Now, let's be honest, when life is full of school runs or never-ending to-do lists or back-to-back meetings or business demands, that require more and more of you, it's easy to miss some of the things that are right in front of you. But what if you could see those hidden strengths clearly? What if those things you always assumed were just part of your personality were actually these gifts that could become superpowers, that could make your life more meaningful and more fulfilled and honestly a lot more impactful? Because that's what we're going to focus on today. I'm going to walk you through these different principles and steps, things that we have on how you can uncover your blind spots and start using them with more purpose. And no, it's not about adding more to your plate in any way. These are the practical tools. They're going to be small shifts that you can work into your real everyday life. They're designed for people who are already doing a lot. So I'm talking to you parents and entrepreneurs and employees. They're just busy, but these are the things that you're going to be missing. Like they're just come so easy and so easy to you at that time. So stick with me, because by the end of this video, you're not just going to know more about your strengths. You'll feel more confident in them. You're going to start showing up in your relationships differently, and in your work differently, and everyday life with more clarity, more purpose, and even more authentically you. Okay? Now, my name is Jake Talbert. In case you're wondering, I'm the founder, author of this book called The GIVER Method. It is an Amazon bestseller. It has tons of amazing 5-star reviews. It is the best $10 you could invest in yourself to live a life more fulfilled, with more purpose, more generosity, discovering your gifts and superpowers, having deeper connections with those around you. Like, go get it. I'll put a link down in the description on Amazon to get it. At the same time, if you're not quite ready to invest that $10 in yourself, then I'll put a free resource there that you can at least get your path started. It's called The Giver's Roadmap. Now, I get nothing from you buying that or downloading that in any way. Just go and get yourself access to them, because it will start changing your life. I want to see these changes and impacts show up in your day-to-day life. Cool? Now, before we dive in, if you find this valuable, hit subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, like the video, of course, maybe comment along the way. Like, I don't want you to miss out on any of the content we put out in the future that could be helpful in helping you unlock potential and create meaningful impact and really start living with more joy and fulfillment in your life. I'll also put links down below to our, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all those places, or thegivermethod.com, all the places you can find us on social or the interwebs, okay? So let's get started and let's dive into these principles so that we can start to take away a lot of the details from there. So our first one is that it's called this effortless, you have to look at the effortless things that you just do excellent. Because here's something that might just shift how you see yourself. The things that feel easy to you are the ones that you overlook. Like, those are actually some of your most valuable gifts. Like, seriously, in every way possible, I mean that. We tend to just brush this stuff off thinking, like anyone can do that, but the truth is they can't. And so it feels like that second nature to you is actually like rocket science to somebody else. You are an expert in that thing to somebody else. So that's where this effortless excellence comes from. It's called that because I want you to take an inventory of what it is, because it's all about noticing the things that you do without even trying. The things you probably don't even see as skills because they're just so automatic to you. But those very things are like, they're your secret sauce, They're the things that you could do. Like, so, for example, like maybe you're the person who can walk into a chaotic room and bring calm, or you can break down these complex problems that people have so it just makes sense for people. Or maybe you're really good at organizing a mess of a room or a spreadsheet, and doing that sort of thing is therapy to you. You have a sixth sense to know when someone needs support. Like, these aren't just quirks, like they are truly the clues. And most of us are like walking around completely blind to them. And there's a reason, like psychologists call this like, the curse of knowledge. Basically, once you're really good at something, you forget what it was like to not know how to. And it becomes ingrained in who you are, so you stop seeing it as special. That's why parents overlook their ability to manage like 5 things at once to calm a toddler. Entrepreneurs forget that spotting new opportunity isn't something that everyone is able to do, or why, you may not notice how easy it is to connect with other people when other people find that so difficult. So how do you start by spotting these invisible strengths? Like, so you could try this simple exercise that I have, like just grab a piece of paper and like draw a line down, draw 2 columns. And in the first column, you want to jot down the things you consistently like go well. Like, even when you're not even trying to do it. Like, these are tasks that just make you think like, why does everyone struggle to do this? Don't filter it at all, and just write down like 5 to 10 things. In the second column, look at each activity and ask yourself like, what actually is allowing me to do that so easily? And get really specific in what it could be. All right. Then comes the fun part. Start paying attention to the moments when you're, surprising that someone else struggles and, something you find simple. Those moments are such gold. Like, those are those little flashes of like, wait, this isn't hard for everyone. Like, this is where blind spots start showing up, and it's worth exploring. It's worth going back to that list and looking at it. So it matters because when you start to see those overlooked abilities as real strengths, they're not just the way you are, but actually like I could develop those to be superpowers, and I could use those with more intention, and I could mold it in the way I show up. Like, it's going to create more of a real impact to others. Your gifts, like, they don't need to be loud and flashy, like, to be meaningful to people. Often the greatest contributions you're ever going to make are the things that you do, without even realizing they're creating value. I had a discussion yesterday with a group of men, and they were talking about like the ways, like, how do you make big change and how do you change the world and all that. And my advice to them was just that you don't try to go change the world. You try to change who you are in the moments that matter when you show up. And using what's within you and making the impact one person and one interaction at a time. It's not about becoming something new. It's about just recognizing that that's who you are. And that realization starts to change everything for you. So then the next thing is you're going to look for feedback. Like, I'm going to look for the feedback patterns that I have and use those for analysis, because sometimes the clearest way to spot your own superpowers isn't through your own eyes, it's through somebody else's. Like, because let's be honest, like, let's look at this. Like, most of us have these blind spots when it comes to those strengths. So when we start to think of that, like, it's because just the way we are. But when people around us see them in a certain way, like, it might be the game changers to them. So you look for the feedback pattern as a way to resolve this. So it isn't about fishing for a compliment or seeking validation in what you're doing. It's about just noticing patterns in how others consistently experience you, your friends, your family, your coworkers, employees, clients, whatever. Like, they've been watching your gifts and your actions for a long time. They've seen how you show up, how you solve problems, how you offer support, calm chaos, spark ideas. It creates the ripple effect that gets created from that. Now, the kicker is that there's usually a big gap between how we feel when we're using our gifts and how others receive them. Like, when you're in the moment, you're doing the thing, you're probably not even thinking twice about it, but they're seeing results. They're feeling a shift. And oftentimes that impact feels a lot bigger to them than it does you. And it is where many of us start to be like, well, I'm going to try and stay humble. Like, I'm not going to make a big thing about it or anything like that. I'm not going to brag. Like, we've gotten really good at brushing off compliments and the positive things that are coming back, discounting the things that we do best. And so this process is about cutting through that. It's the way to, see yourself more clearly without the inner filters that you have, without doubt or downplaying it. And so what you do is go just reach out to some people. Go find 3, 5, 7 people from different corners of your life, different roles, family, friends, colleagues, clients, whatever, and ask them just some simple questions, or maybe variations to these questions. Like, hey, what do you come to me for that you don't go to others for? Like, what have you felt the most helped or supported by me from? Like, what do you think I do better than most people? Or something like, if you were going to recommend someone come talk to me for something for help, like, what would it be? Like, let them know that you're reflecting on your own strengths and that you'd love them to be honest in what they're giving you. Like, encourage them to be as specific, to give stories, moments, situations, like these are gold, or what was the outcome? And then take that and like take some time to just, sift through the responses and look for the themes that popped up and, write down like what surprised you, like what feedback feels totally unexpected or something you would have never thought about yourself. That's the point. There's the disconnect in how others see you versus how we see ourselves that creates that blind spot. So you just create a document, maybe journal about it for a bit, to provide you that clarity, that is going to allow you to start to see how that could show up in your real life. Multiple people may highlight your ability to see potential in others. Like, great, pay attention to that. Like, here's where it gets even more powerful is then you start by following it up by saying like, well, exactly what was helpful about that, like what I said? How did that moment change things for you? And now it starts to really unlock what that impact is, which makes it become easier to name the gift behind what it is that you're doing. It's important because it challenges you to stop seeing your strengths as just normal and start to use multiple people's feedback to find that pattern. And once you've got this awareness, you can start leaning into those gifts with more intentionality, creating more value with purpose, and knowing it's not just by accident. You're making an impact along the way. You can name it, you can claim it, you can step fully into it. Now, the third one is you want to create almost like an energy map. Like, so let's talk about energy for a second. Like, and why it might be one of the biggest clues to discovering these strengths. When, something that people miss is the things that give them the energy, the things that lift them up, and that make time just, disappear. You go into that flow state. Those are often the signs of some of your deepest gifts, but we've been taught to ignore them. We grow up hearing that, it should be hard, that value comes with struggle, and, that stuff feels too easy, that maybe it doesn't matter. But I found that actually the opposite is completely true. The things that energize you often are the exact places where your gifts are trying to break through, that flow state that you feel, right? Like, it's not a fluke, it's a signal. And so what you want to do is use an energy map and use it as an exercise to find the things that fill you up. So what you want to do for this is for 1 week, like, just keep a simple log each day. Like, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just grab a notebook or a note app on your phone or whatever. It could be the back of a receipt, I don't care. And at the end of the day, write down a few moments when you felt especially alive and focused and in your flow state. You're looking for the times where things just clicked, or maybe it's a conversation where you helped someone, maybe organizing that chaoticness at work, maybe it's solving that problem creatively, working with your kids. Like, they don't have to be anything big or flashy. In fact, they usually aren't. And then next, each of those moments, ask yourself, like, what was I actually doing? What ability or strength or gift could I have been using? Where did I connect the dots that no one else saw? Where did I bring that clarity to the confusion? Like, limiting someone's mood with humor or with humor and encouragement. Maybe I wrote something that just flowed effortlessly. I broke down that really complex thing, something like whatever it is, be specific. Don't just say I helped someone. How did I help them? Was it listening? Was it offering clarity? Was it telling a story that brought perspective? And then after that week of doing that, look down at it and look for the patterns. What shows up again and again as the energizing moments? What kind of environments did you bring out your best? What abilities were you using when you were in that zone? And where it becomes a game changer for you is that, those aren't just the happy accidents. They're the sweet spot. They're the places where you find gifts exactly where they're supposed to be, and they bring value to others. So many of us spend our days grinding through the tasks, thinking of how life works. But your gifts don't want to be dragged through your day. They want to drive your day. They want to start aligning with your time and your energy. So as you find what they are, you want to start to use this exercise to shift how you approach your day. Find more ways that you can include these things that build you up and create energy in your life day to day, so you can start living more powerfully and more fulfilled. But start simple. Just for 1 week, just go journal, and then make a commitment of something you're going to start to do as you want to start to implement that energy into your, getting more of that energy back into your life. Now, the fourth one is you got to go back and look at your childhood and your childhood passions. This goes a lot with the energy idea, because if you look back, before you had any sort of deadlines or expectations, or before it felt like your worth is tied to being productive and practical, think back to maybe when you were, 7 to 12 years old, that version of you, before life started layering all the things you should do. You had a just natural way of learning of learning things or leaning into the different things that felt natural to you. Not because someone told you they were valuable, but because you thought they maybe get you a job someday. They were just simple. They lifted you up. These are like this sort of an exercise, like I call, childhood passion, excavation, where we're digging through our past. And it's one of the most, powerful ways that you can really reconnect with gifts that maybe you forgot. Now, they didn't go away. You've just buried them in your day-to-day life. So think back to, when you had more curiosity around these items. You created, you played, you explored without a second guessing at all of what was productive or realistic. You weren't trying to be efficient. You were just trying to be you. And that version left you clues. So many of the strengths that you have today, like they're things that come naturally to you, could be grounded in those. But maybe there's the ones that you miss. Like the problem is that you grew up and you start hearing like, be practical, or you make a living, can't make a living doing that, right? So slowly we tuck those passions away. We stop mattering to us, because we're told we need to grow out of them. So we want to dig them back up. So what you want to do first, just set aside some time, grab 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes and journal, sit somewhere quiet and write down everything you remember being drawn to when you were between the ages of, we'll say, 7 and 12. What could you have done for hours without getting bored? What kind of things did you make? What role did you play when you were when you were playing with others? What topics or activities pulled you in even when no one else cared about it? Don't overthink it, don't edit it, don't judge it, just let it flow. And then for each of those memories, go a little deeper. What was it about that maybe captivated me? What was the thing that drew me to it? Was it the connection? Was it fairness? Was it being a leader? Was it something within the game, a rule? And then look for, where you are now. As you were there at one time. And so then as you look through what there may have been lifted you up as a kid, how is that showing up for you today? Maybe it's a childhood love of drawing that starts to show up an ability for, creating visual clarity, or maybe you had this obsession with pretend radio shows or whatever, and it's why you love podcasts and leading meetings or whatever. Maybe you had fascination with bugs and insects, and now you love to observe and go very detail oriented in the little things that matter. This isn't about reliving childhood, it's about reclaiming the truth that was there. And what it's going to do is it reconnects you with the part of yourself that maybe you've buried under the practicality and the performance that you need to be as an adult. These early clues reveal those gifts that still live inside you, and they just need to come forward again. So if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, or want to get to that next level, if you're trying to figure out what makes you unique, or if you just tired of grinding on the things that drain you, this is going to be a way back to what's real and what's joyful and what's been there all along. Now, our fifth one is, the frustration of others reversal, I guess I'll call it. So if you think of it this way, if something that you might, if you think of it this way, because it might flip your brain a little bit on how you're thinking. It's even flipping my brain, trying to come up with the right words to say. What if the things that annoy you about others actually could be clues to your own superpowers, which might sound strange, but hear me out. We've all had those moments, the ones where you're thinking things like, why can't they just figure this out? Or it's just so obvious, or, why does it always turn into a mess when they're doing it? And while it's easy to get stuck in a loop of frustration, there's something deeper going on beneath the surface. Usually when someone else's struggles with something that just feels ridiculously simple to you, you get annoyed. You actually start brushing against their strength of yours, and you stop recognizing it as special. So this is where taking the frustration of others and reversing, the frustration others are giving you, and you reverse it. It's the idea of the things that bug you actually might reveal more about you than you realize. Psychologists call it the unconscious competence. The things that you're good at, but you don't realize you're good at until they feel like common sense. But the problem is that they're not common, and they're yours, and they're part of your inner workings and programming and wiring. And when people rub up against those, it actually starts to make you feel that frustration or that angst around it. For them, the person, it's overwhelming, but it's going to feel easy to you. And so the reversal, it's going to shine a light on your core values. A lot of time our frustration isn't about ability, it's about that alignment. If someone's decision-making process feels slow and clunky to you, it might be because you value clarity and action and efficiency. Those values are hardwired into how you operate. So how do you turn frustration into clarity? And so what you want to do is make a quick list of maybe 5 to 7 things that really get under your skin. It could be how someone communicates. It could be how they work on a team. It could be how they avoid commitment and how they handle deadlines. Ask yourself, like, what feels obvious to me that they're missing? And more importantly, what ability or value might that reveal about me? And then if you get irritated by someone, start asking yourself, like, gosh, I'm getting irritated because of the tech stuff. Maybe you've got a natural knack for breaking down simplifying the complex, right? Like if a group project makes you crazy because, it takes so long to get an initiative going, maybe like you've got leadership instincts that need to shine. So you take this a step further and map out, like grab another piece of paper and just put 3 columns. Like what was the frustration? What was the strength it points to? And maybe one way you can intentionally use that strength this week. And you're always like, you're going to get annoyed by the things that are there. And so, but find the ways that you could flip it and that you could use it, throughout the week. How do you solve those problems? Or how do you see that it could be a problem and address it before it happens? Be intentional with it, right? So instead of next time catching yourself going, why can't they just like pause that frustration and, find the way you can use your superpower to, work through that and to help create more value for those that you're working with. Now, the 6th one is this compliment deflection awareness. And so we talked about it earlier because like when we get compliments, like we're really good at brushing them off, like even without thinking. I mean, you have to know what I mean. Someone says like, oh, you're really amazing at everything organized. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you figured that out. And your response like, oh, it's nothing. Or someone's like, oh man, you're just so good at helping us calm that situation. Like, I just did what anyone would do. Like, there are so many variations to these phrases, but some version of these types of things sounds familiar to you. And the thing is like those automatic responses, those quick like deflections, they're telling you something. They're revealing those strengths, you've stopped seeing. And so what you want to do is find like that compliment deflection, like create an awareness to it. And so it's a practice of turning it, the praise you push away because, buried inside those moments are some of your most valuable gifts. And so why do we do this? Like, why are we so quick to dismiss the good things? Like a lot of us do it because we were raised to think it that way. Like that's what, we were raised to do, or what we've, is based off what we've been through. Maybe we're told not to be prideful. Maybe it's acknowledging your strength makes you look like you're bragging, or maybe, environments where you're standing out, you don't feel safe. Or maybe, your gift wasn't celebrated. It was overlooked or misunderstood or mischaracterized, like all sorts of things it could be. Whatever the reason, many of us learn to downplay our natural abilities just because like you're stopped noticing them doesn't mean that they've stopped making an impact. So often the things that make the biggest difference in people's lives are those things that we're not even realizing that we're doing. So what you want to do for the next couple weeks, when someone gives you this compliment, don't rush it, like don't wave it away. Instead, just say thank you and take a moment to note down what they said. Like write it down and keep a compliment journal. Use that notes app on your phone or whatever it may be, and then track the praise you receive. Write down like what the person said, who said it, and what was your honest internal reaction you had? Was it uncomfortable? Like, did you instantly think like that doesn't count, or like it's not me? Like after a while, you're gonna start to notice those patterns. You're gonna notice how they start to show up. And so maybe you consistently deflect compliments about your creativity, or about you downplay how you can use empathy. Like the truth is, like you don't need to move past them. Like the very things you're brushing off are the things most impactful ways that you can show up in the world. So once you collect the examples, like ask yourself, like, why is this particular compliment hard for me to accept? Why do I believe it's too easy to be valuable? Or why does it not match with how I want to be seen? Or have I been told it doesn't count for something? Like, this is where the awareness deepens, and you're not just identifying the gifts, but you're uncovering the reason why they're continuing to stay hidden in the first place. And here's why it matters. Like when you fully develop them, you are able to consistently be seeing others in the way you do, start paying attention to the worth you bring. It makes it way less uncomfortable for you. So we've actually covered a lot of information today, but I want to leave you with something that I'm hoping will stick with you. Like your most valuable gifts, the superpowers you have, are often just, they're going to be hiding in plain sight. They're not flashy, they're not loud. In fact, they usually just feel so normal to you that you don't realize, but others do. They see it. Like it brings calm to their chaos. Like how you instinctively connect with people, how you spot the patterns and that no one else notices, how you bring warmth into a room without even trying. Like none of these types of things are ever accidents. They are the gifts that could become superpowers for you. You know, the principles we talked about, like, you know, they're designed to help you to take an inventory, to experiment with some of the things that you could go do and actually start to see how it is that you're helping people. They aren't just interesting ideas. These are all practical ways to shift how you show up, and not just at work or at in just relationships or in parenting or leadership, like in every aspect of life, because what feels ordinary to you is going to be extraordinary to someone else, and you can create so much value in their lives. So your next step, like, don't just do it all at once. Pick one of the things we talked about, something that stood out to you. Commit this week. Maybe it's tracking energy. Maybe it's finally accepting that compliment. You know, maybe it's, you know, asking some trusted people to see like what you might be missing. Just start small, start real, and then see what happens. Notice how it feels when you show up using your gifts that come naturally to you without overthinking or pretending to be someone else. Notice how the people around you respond. Notice the clarity and connection and the confidence that it starts to build, not from trying harder, but from just giving from who you already are in the scenarios you're already in. Now, if it resonated with you, then I'd love to invite you to dive deeper into that. Go down into links, grab a copy of the GIVER Method book on Amazon, you know, get it and start implementing the things that are a part of that. The link is in the description. Like, you know, if you're looking for something else like that you could really get started with, you could go download the Giver's Roadmap. It's that free resource packed full of all the exercises that you could go do. I mean, if you're a parent, an entrepreneur, an employee, someone trying to navigate stress, overwhelm, burnout, transition, trying to get to that next level of a more fulfilled, happy, joyful life, it's for you. I'd love to hear from you in the comments, like which of these resonated with you the most? Like which one, like blind spot are you going to start, like maybe are you starting to notice in yourself just from hearing these things? Thank you for spending the time with me today. I really do mean that, because it shows me, that you are, like, you're here and you're trying to improve upon that. You know, I believe that, like, when you start to see and share your gifts, especially with the ones that you've overlooked, you don't just create more impact, you create more of you in the world. And that's the kind of contribution that only you can make, and people are waiting for it. Your gifts, they matter, especially the ones that you can't see fully yet. And so with that, I'll invite you to keep growing, keep giving, and just go out there and look for those areas in your life where you can start delivering more value, and that you already are creating value. Maybe you just don't see it yet. We'll catch you on our next video. Have a great rest of your day.